Hi. Did everybody get a chance to try one of the tasty non-alc beverages that are outside? Awesome. Peroni 00, Blue Moon, non-alc, and ZOA, which is our clean energy brand in partnership with The Rock. I had to plug some of those brands, and thankful to McCormick for allowing us to bring in. I did ask to bring some of our Miller Lite, Coors Light stuff, but they said no alcohol. So I get it, but we have a room for you in our portfolio with non-alc too. All right. My name is Tom Henehan. I'm the field marketing director for the Northeast region for Molson Coors. I'm responsible for the area that is basically what we call the Mid-Atlantic, which is Virginia, Maryland, D.C., West Virginia, all the way up through Maine. So between there and everything in between. And I've been with the organization for 20 years. I've been with Molson Coors for 20 years. I've been in beer for 23 years. I started my career with a wholesaler in Philadelphia. Originally from Philadelphia, born and bred, live outside now. Woo! Yeah, go Philly, go Birds. It's important for me to note this real quick because I started my career with a wholesaler because beer is a three-tier system, and this might come up a couple times during the conversation today. Right after Prohibition, the government decided we need to put a middleman in the mix. We can't have breweries owning retail accounts because it creates monopolies. So there's a middle tier in there called our wholesaler or distributor network. I might refer to them as wholesalers or distributors, and they are independent businesses that we brew beer, we sell to them, they then sell to retail. It's the law, and it's a really important part of our partnership and how we bring things to retail. And we're going to talk a lot about some of the tactical side of things today and bringing kind of brands to life via Experiential. And that's, I just, table stakes, it's done in partnership with our distributors. So I want to make sure if I mention that later, it's not like, who are you talking about?
Strong plug. And speaking of partnerships, the Brand Innovators guys emailed over a couple weeks ago and were like, hey, you got a couple choices of panels here. And as a prolific Miller Lite drinker, at my wedding, when it said the groom's cocktail, it was Miller Lite bottle twist open and enjoy ice cold. My buddies all knew that was me. I jumped at the fact that I got to talk to Molson Coors. Not every day do you get to meet your idols, so talking to the Miller Lite guy here, this is pretty big for me.
That's the first time I've ever been told that, and I really appreciate that.
And on our first conversation, he had on an Eagles shirt, and I brought up the Miller Lite flight deck at the link, which I have lost a few afternoons on. And he looked at me and goes, hey, man, that was mine.
Yeah, it is. And actually, someone in the room right now, and I'll say hello, but Melissa Riggs, who is a former a member of our team at Molson Coors, now with Leica Group, who's going to speak after me, was integral in the flight deck. So you can thank Melissa, too.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to get going here. We're going to keep this pretty casual. Our marketing folks, when we were having the kickoff call, they actually turned off their cameras because they said it started to sound like a little bit of a bro fest on a podcast. So I think we're going to have a little bit of fun here. But Tom, let's start off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory with Molson Coors? 20 years. You probably got a lot of stories there. Yeah. Let's hear some of it.
Yeah, a lot of stories. Beer business is fun. It's been good to me, and it might come out in me that I do love what I do. It is a fun environment.
He has Peroni shoes on.
My collaboration with Italian style, Italian beer. You got to do it right. So my background, when I started and fell into beer at the wholesaler, and then I did a bunch of different roles. I did some sales roles. I did field marketing roles in Kentucky and Southern Ohio, moved to Southern California, handled San Diego and Vegas. I survived Vegas, and I still can't believe that fact in the beer business. And the one thing I did bring back from that job was my girlfriend, who is now my wife and the lovely mother of my 11-year-old daughter. And that was part of my journey. And obviously we're in suburban Philadelphia now. And then spent time in brand marketing in Chicago as well. We'll talk about that a little bit. And I really running the gamut of all the things associated with sales and marketing at Molson Coors. As the field marketing director, I get to lead a team of 9 individuals in the Northeast region. We have field marketing managers, field marketing associates, and it's really our job to take all of the national platforms, the brands, and localize them. You'll hear me say localize probably 1,000 times today, but that's really what we do. We focus on ensuring that at point of purchase or point of consumption, like we're literally on the front lines of how consumers interact with our brands and making them show up properly. Yeah, it's whether it be negotiating or vetting and negotiating and activating alliances, doing the media planning for the Northeast. Our team does that. The budgeting side, so it's a big financial component. So we really have our hand in a lot of things. And we do this for the entire portfolio. So we have brand teams that work on individual stuff, which I know we'll get into, but we do it for the entire portfolio, whether it's Miller Lite, Coors Light, or it's Red's Wicked, or it's ZOA, or it's Steel Reserve, or like we have, our portfolio is very diverse for all the different occasions that are out there.
That's awesome. So when we were talking, you kept bringing up this thing, and it stuck with me of you don't have to be a traditional marketer, or you don't have to have a marketing degree to do big marketing things. Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, this is where the BroFest started, right? Because we found that we were Eagles fans. I know we're in the world of the Ravens and the Orioles. We'll talk a lot about them. We also found out that we were both history majors in college. And we also found out we had a mutual friend. So once this started talking, we started talking, the other individuals that were on the call, Kelly and Ashley, just cameras flicked off right away. They were done with us with the eye roll, and then we just went at it to try to learn a little bit about each other. But the way marketing is set up at Molson Coors is this. You have brand marketing based in Chicago. That's where our corporate headquarters are. You have obviously traditional brand marketers or the brand marketing department that handles they're the caretakers and the originators of the brand identity, and they work on national campaigns, the way we show up in TV and our ATL and all that stuff. Then along with brand marketing, you have the activation arm of those big brands. So Miller Lite, Coors Light, Blue Moon, Coors Banquet, they all have an activation arm. And they're responsible for figuring out ways to show up in culture, in scale, right? So for example, Miller Lite places a big bet on summertime and barbecue. And they did a national partnership with Kingsford Charcoal to create beer coal, right? Beer infused charcoal. And they did like this stunt, this brand act to sell it online, and sold out within 2 minutes. And that activation arm does a really good job at that. And then there's another component called marketing activation. That's all the things that hit the field. So marketing activation could be like, shopper marketing, traditional shopper marketing. They make sure that our point of sale, the way we show up at retail, is in line with what the brand would want. They do the national sweepstakes and all the other activity that goes on. And then there's field marketing, as I've already said and described what we do on a daily basis. And it's those four kind of arms that work together to make this thing work. And the only way, to the point about being a non-classical marketer, I'm clearly a non-classical marketer, and that if they don't all work together and collaborate, it's not going to work at all. And frankly, we have to cross-pollinate. Like, that's the biggest thing here. The message I have for any non-classical marketer is that there's a role for you. I did do a stint in corporate. I was the brand manager for Molson Canadian, Molson family of brands, and Foster's in the early 2000s when we had the partnership with the NHL. They wanted a field marketer to come in and say, hey, we have this new partner in the NHL. We know you know how to activate partnerships. Let's make this work. But it was very intimidating because I literally had two MBA graduates from very prestigious universities reporting to me. I'm like, we would get in these rooms and we would talk about things like, they would want to talk about the brand funnel. And I'm like, those are big words for me, right? Like, what? And I would say, well, do you understand what motivates a retailer? Do you understand what motivates a distributor? And it's that yin and yang that really makes it work, and so important to say, don't be intimidated by a non-classical marketing background by going into brand marketing, and vice versa, because our culture really encourages that. It happens a lot. I just had 2 people get promoted and move into Chicago corporate, and it's because of that we're really going to be great communicators.
I love that idea of communication, and it's been through so many of the panels that we've seen today, like whether it be, talking about the AARP group and how you have to talk to different demographics, or you're going through, what the Under Armour folks were all talking about, how you have to talk to different departments in order to get events off the ground. Like, nothing actually happens if organizations don't communicate. So I love how you guys work through that to get field marketing to really ladder into what the overall brand marketing teams are doing. So you've talked a little bit about your role. Can you share how your role in field marketing kind of like, how how do you build a strategic field marketing plan? Like, what are the ideals that you're putting out there?
Yeah.
What are kind of like the key pillars that you're focusing on when you're looking at any region under your oversight?
Yeah. And that's where the fun pictures start coming in, because as I said, this is a little bit more the tactical side. You take the national strategy, you create a local strategy, and you build the tactics out of that. And before I go into this segment, you'll see a lot of references. I wanted to keep it as local as possible. We talk a lot about what's going on in Baltimore. And a quick shout out to Kim Juditis, who's in the back there. Wave hi, Kim. She's our field marketing manager for the Mid-Atlantic. She's on the team, and a lot of the creations you'll see in relation to the Ravens and the Orioles, she's the big advocate and the creator for making it all happen. So when we talk about these pillars, the things that, like, again, we're close to point of purchase, point of consumption. So it's a bit of like how we want to build the tactics associated with the strategies. And if we don't do these 5 things correct, we're not going to win in field marketing. So simply put, localize, scale up, focus on our growth targets, be breakthrough, and test and learn. And you talk about those and what that looks like. So localize, the common form of localization is taking the existing brand equity and you put your local twist on it. Pretty straightforward. You know, choose chill is the tagline for Coors Light. Well, we want to do Maryland choose chill. You take the chapeau, which is, we call that the mountain on top of the Coors logo, and you turn it into, of course, the Maryland flag, which is synonymous with the state. And then the Liberty Bell, it looks like a Miller Lite can. So for Philly, it makes a lot of sense. So that's one element of localization. All of these alliances you see on the screen right here are just Northeast Region alliances. They are all official partners of Molson Coors and vice versa. These are all alliances that include IP. So my team is thinking about this every day, how to activate these at retail in a given time frame. And that's a big part of our localization efforts. And here's how you can see it pop up. So on the left, you see Hall of Famer Jonathan Ogden, Mr. Raven. That's something that Kim worked hard on to work within the visual ID of Miller Lite to bring it to life. Baltimore Orioles packaging on Coors Light. And then on the right, you see the retail theater that this helps create, right? So you take the look and feel and you say, how can we make this better? It's great when you have a side panel that's a different color than the main panel, and you say, how can we make this look better? You create words, fly equals fly, and you build this retail theater. It's critically important for us to win and have fun with localization. From a scale-up perspective, like, there's one way to think of scale-up. It's like someone in Boston and someone in Baltimore are working on the same thing, but they never talk to each other. We need to do a better job of that, ensure that if you're working on a display enhancer for the same brand in the same manner, we're talking to. That's one version of scale up. The other version is taking something like an alliance. This is a Barefoot Country Music Festival, 42,000 people a day for 4 days in South Jersey. They just had it a couple weeks ago. Miller Lite is the main sponsor, but our whole portfolio is the sponsor. That is a line on the left side for people to enter for a chance to win that cowboy hat. That's literally the doors opened. The doors opened 10 minutes before that, and that's the run that they went to go get that hat. There's also first-party data. You got to do a QR code for an opportunity to win, all that stuff. But point being is, we realized real quick that attendees to this festival, which we thought was going to be like a South Jersey, Philly thing, was from 48 states. So how do you take that knowledge after the first and second time we've done it? It's the 4th time we've done it. Build programs across the state of Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland. We're talking about maybe going to Ohio, just because we know this is a destination festival with top premier country talent, and scale it up. You see the Arnold Palmer Spiked, which is one of our brands on the right. Enter to win sweepstakes for VIP. That thing hunts, all right? Next, focus on growth targets. I think this could be a whole other day doing this, right? How do we win with multicultural consumers? Black and Latino consumers is a target for us. We need to figure out the best way to localize assets and speak to them directly and authentically. It's been a trial and error, to be quite honest. We dip our toe in, we kind of pull out, and then we really got to go all in, and you'll see that coming down the pike more in 2025. Breakthrough. This is an example. We work on our e-com business too. Breakthrough is like, as far as on the left that's standing out, this is a distributor website that speaks directly to retailers. So this is B2B e-com that my team works on and showcases our partnership with the Celtics and the Bruins. But it's also really important for us to educate retailers what we're getting our hand in. On the right, test and learn. We've heard that a lot today. So it's not always about like what wins you learn from. It's sometimes the losses or the opportunities. This is an example of something that Kim worked on with the Orioles, where buy one, get one for a penny. Can you imagine going to a checkout and it's a $17 beer and we have an offer, buy one, get one, which is technically legal in Baltimore? The learning here, the hurdle is the communication between the person behind the counter and the consumer. And so we're going to take that learning and do it better. But point is, we got to try it. We got to try new avenues. The right is just a gratuitous plug for Happy Thursday, which is a brand new brand of ours. It's a spiked refresher with no bubbles. It's the future, right? No bubbles. So I just wanted to give a little plug there.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I love that line for the cowboy hat. And sometime after this, you guys can all ask me what a beer in is, and true Miller Lite fans will have been given a beer in for Christmas at some point in time. But let's talk about the DNA of the brand. Like, there's a clear alignment between beer and sports and fandoms and all of that. They represent different cultures and they're different things. And how do you own your voice and maintain your brand authenticity in very different spaces? I mean, Ravens fans and Eagles fans are different. People from Boston, they're their own iota. So, like, how do you make sure that you're authentically speaking to people and keep maintaining that DNA of each of your individual brands? Well,
obviously, you'll see the creative that is on display, like connecting with a Ravens fan via Jonathan Ogden, who is the most lovable person in probably definitely in the Ravens history, if not the NFL. But we directly associate with him and the brand. But also, one of our main visions, not one of the vision for our company, is to create brands, build brands that people want to hang out with, right? And so whether it's at home or it's tailgating or it's being at the stadium, we want you to experience it with our brand. All of those are much better experiences with brand in hand. And at these stadiums for these teams, the old way of doing things has been completely thrown out. It's no longer the day of like a fan buys a ticket, shows up, goes to the stadium, sits in their seat, watches the game, and leaves. Brands, which mean these teams that are brands, understand that the experience matters. So for us, it's about helping create that experience. And if they have an amazing experience at the stadium with our brand in hand, it's just a symbiotic thing. The passion just rolls over, and we hopefully create raving fans for our brands. On the right, you see the Miller Lite Gatehouse. This is the rendering of it. It's currently being constructed now, so if you drive on 95 past the stadium, you'll look to your right, or left, depending on which way you're coming. If you're going south, so it'll be on your right. This is a permanent structure that is under construction, and it's about connecting with Ravens fans. This is going to be something that they're stepping up their game. It was a tent before, essentially, and now they're like, we need to make this experience more full for consumers. So they stepped it up, they built a permanent structure, and we are the official partner of that for the Miller Lite Gatehouse. On the left, you see the Coors Light roof deck that is at Camden Yards, and that's a brand new addition this year. Again, the idea here is we want to create fan experiences and be a part of it and part of their fun. The interesting thing about the Orioles, and something that I was asked to bring up, was that we switched brands going into this season for the Orioles. It was Miller Lite for 30 plus years as the partner of the Orioles, and I said, why would you do that? 30 years of working that over. And for us, it was really about a business opportunity. So you have a massive brand like Miller Lite working with the Ravens and also working with the Orioles. Coors Light, look, it's another premium American Light Lager that we have to win with, and we need a shiny toy for it. So we wanted to win in the market with sports fans, and Coors Light is the perfect fit for working with the Orioles. And also, it doesn't leave a void for us necessarily for Miller Lite, because we have other activity that we do in the market to win at retail. So we have a national program around Americana during the summer, which takes packaging and the American flag and makes us look big and bold. We partner with barbecue and all of that. So it was a tough decision to make after 30 years, but we decided it was the right thing to do for our portfolio in this market and grow both brands simultaneously.
So I love that. And when we talk at Vevo about fandoms, it's really rooted in our artists, and they make music videos every single day that stop the world. And that's the nature of what a music video does. with how fandoms have changed over time and how fandom culture has changed, and we need to look no further than what happens in Kansas City right now with everybody showing up in my red area t-shirts because Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce. How do you think authentic brand placement continues? And I know you got some hats there that you're going to show everyone.
Yeah, look, we all know that fans, it's short for fanatics, they're nuts, right? Like that's the point. And these teams have done an amazing job of having so much of your emotions invested in their team that literally if your Monday and how happy you are is predicated upon whether or not your Ravens won on Sunday. Like that is so powerful, right? And so we want to make sure that our brands are entrenched in this culture too. Because if we bring ourselves along for the ride and we co-create these great experiences, we become part of the fabric and the culture of that team. And our brands do win. So the example I have here on the left here, again, something Kim's working on. We have early bird Saturdays. Get it, bird, Orioles. Early bird Saturdays for all their Saturday games. So it's a one-of-a-kind experience co-created with the Orioles. And when you co-create, they're going to have emotional investment in this thing too. They're going to help make this thing work. And you show out early on Saturday games. It's a Coors Light experience along with the Orioles. So fans of the team can come out and engage with our brand. There are discounts on dogs and beers and all this other fun stuff, but also a live band, and you become part of the organization and the culture. The second thing I'm going to show you is something that happened this past Friday. It's called Floppy Hat Night. Again, something that was 30 plus years as a Miller Lite partnership. And by what you see here on eBay, the floppy hat was a resounding success. I pulled this, I think yesterday morning, but this is a floppy hat. It's a 30-year tradition. It's been switched to Coors Light. Fans, 20,000 fans, 21 or older, obviously, get one of these. The first 20,000. There was a line. The game was sold out. Even in years when they weren't so good, they're awesome this year, they're super fun to watch. But even in years that they weren't so great, there are a lot of them, this was one of the most well-attended game of the year. And so this game was sold out. I showed up at 6:15, the game was at 7, they were already gone. It was a sea of them. So point being, this event has become part of the fabric of the team and of fandom. And it's really cool to see, and I brought another one, it changes every year, right? So this is when it was Miller Lite, and they're collector's items. And again, our brand is associated with their brand's biggest night of the year. It's pretty cool to do and pretty cool to continue to activate and think about how doing it differently.
I love that. I mean, you can go from like a permanent structure like the Miller Lite Gatehouse all the way to a floppy hat that people are going to have a collection of. Yasmin, I'm sorry, but more than 5 of them, I'm guessing.
We got you one.
Most of the O's fans
we'll take care of you. Someone told me you're a fan.
That being said, as the music guy up here, I do want to get a little bit beyond sports for a second. And we've had the pleasure of working with the Molson Coors team on a ton of activations, whether it be Billie Eilish or a newcomer like Gracie Abrams. Most recently, you guys kind of came in and really surrounded some of our inclusive media with some Hispanic artists out of Colombia, like Camillo. And now the most recent actual activation that we did was around the Best of Shakira, who was the halftime performer at the Copa America tournament that recently happened. Why are artists like this on the same level as sports teams when you get into kind of like that brand marketing ecosystem to be able to think about music as another pillar? Music
and music videos, I mean, it's undeniable how they shape culture. I mean, I have 3 sisters who for better part of 2 years in the mid-'80s wore lace gloves because of Madonna, right? Like it's legit, the impact that it has, and it's so, people get so passionate about it, right? And we want to align with passion. That's what all this alliance stuff is about, passion and music. And so we've partnered with Vevo. Really, I understand one of the first partnerships was back in 2019. We did a geo-targeted stuff in Pennsylvania around State College, and it's just the relationship has since blossomed there. Coors Light's national program this summer involved a partnership with 4 artists, Lainey Wilson, who you might know. She's Country Music Artist of the Year, things of that nature. She's won tons of awards. LL Cool J, who made an appearance in our Super Bowl commercial. Tiny, who's a reggaeton star. And then kind of alt-pop band Mountain Joy. Those are the 4 music artists that we're associating ourselves with. But when it comes to Vevo, we want to make sure we even expand the coverage in music beyond those 4 artists. And you think about winning with Latinos, we talk about that a lot. How do we win with Latino consumers? And understanding that your platform is like 33 million, I think the number is, Latino users. That's literally half, if not more than half the US population that engages with your platform. And so winning with Latinos is important to us. We want to make sure that we showed up where your brand was doing some really great things. The Shakira Copa thing, we're in on soccer, we're in on music as Coors Light. And it was amazing to be part of the premiere on Vevo where Shakira is talking about Copa, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, and thank you for that. So I got 2 questions left. One's big, one's small. We'll start with the big one. Fandoms transcend categories. They transcend kind of like imagery, sports, music, whatever it may be, and they transcend logic. It's all about passion. For all the marketers in the room, like as a non-traditional marketer, what would be your best advice for people to authentically show up in the coming years?
Yeah, probably basically everything. I think I've covered a lot of it. It's showing up where you think your fans are gonna be most passionate about, and ensuring that, like, if you want to associate with their good time, you use some partnerships in particular, making sure you're available to them, and kind of shouldering up to where they're most passionate about. For beer, it's about the occasions. We think that they're legitimate occasions where we can show up naturally. It doesn't seem like it's a forced fit in any way. So sports and music festivals, all those things that are a good time. I love the piece that Beth had earlier from Under Armour when she talked about, like, show me about a moment, an experience, and we're all talking about festivals, and things that happen. And beer is part of that good time, part of that experience.
That's awesome. Now the big one. What's the best music video or the best show you've been to in the last 6 months?
I can answer both of those, but I would say music video-wise, I love music videos. There's a ton of them I can choose, but the one that had like the most, when you're super young, you have all these things that impress you and impact you for the rest of your life. For me, would be Van Halen's Panama.
Oh, yes.
And reason being was I knew the music, but then you have to actually see these guys. Like I was a young buck, and you're like, David Lee Roth is magnetic. Eddie Van Halen is a virtuoso, and you got to see it in a way, and the video is actually kind of terrible. It's not even like a linear story. It's fun, but it just really got me exposure to it. And then as far as concerts are concerned, I'm a child of the 90s. I'm a Pearl Jam nut. And 2016 in Philadelphia, when they literally played for the first time ever, they played their first album from beginning to end. And they played the album 10, which is the name of the album. They played it first song through last song in a row. It's the only time it's ever been done. And I was there with my wife, and we talk about it all the time. She's not the biggest Pearl Jam fan, but she was there for that experience. And I had that experience with a Miller Lite in hand.
There you go. I love it.
Very good.
Any questions?
Very good. That's awesome. We're going to jump into the next session. But first off, that was a great session. There's a Hunter. I mean, are you going to steal those hats, or what's going on here?
Yeah, we do have a couple of the.
I'm a Phils fan.
Yeah,
so
we do have a couple of the black
sorry.
versions. If you are a diehard Orioles fan, just after this is done, if you could stop by and say hi to Kim and myself.
Let's give Tom and Hunter a cheers.